Hello, I'm Chuck Benoit. Welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. Elected or selected? What is really going on in Florida politics? See, the word is out, even though the Republican Party of Florida frowns deeply when local Republicans take sides in a primary election, they have a very different opinion when it comes to themselves. It appears that the RPOF is very afraid of Matt the Welder, because he's primarying Wilton Simpson for Commissioner of Agriculture. So they voted to endorse Wilton Simpson before any Republican could even cast a vote. And I don't know a lot about Matt the Welder, but I do understand that he is not the choice of the RPOF. And with that said, he shouldn't even get a chance to win in a free and fair primary election, right? Well, this is Florida Republican politics. You don't run for office unless you're asked to run. And that makes it a close-knit group of self-preserving grifters. And also, it's also why we get so much legislation that leans hard to the left here in Florida. We defeated Obama's Agenda 21 nationally, only to have a Republican governor, House and Senate, voted in for Florida and entitled the Live Local Act. More recent legislation has stripped local governments of their responsibility to moderate growth in the cities and counties, bringing low-income housing to the suburbs. Low-income housing, more Democrat votes? I don't know. Anyway, locally, we have primaries going on in Congressional District 6 and 11, and I would caution all of us to do our own vetting. Just because you get something in the mail showing a candidate to be bad or even evil, doesn't mean that it is true. So check your candidates out on your own. Make your own decisions based on your own research. And at this time, it doesn't even seem to be reliable to lean on local Republican organizations for that information. Something is very odd in the wind. With that, good morning, Mike Levine.
Chuck, that was a really profound opening statement. I had no idea I was going to be so impressed this morning.
Yeah, I get it.
No, it's absolutely true. You pinned it. I mean, that was pretty good. I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you. So, property taxes in the wind again. All of a sudden, it's on a front burner. What's going on here, Mike?
Well, I watched the governor's press conference yesterday, and
Yeah.
he said that he needed to get the budget passed before he wanted to move on and take on property taxes. So the budget got passed, and he's ready to take on property taxes. So he called a special session. I think June 1, Monday, June 1 is the opening date of the special session. It's a couple of days long. The proclamation that he published through the governor's office and all that, the website and media, pages and stuff like that on the website says that the special session will begin on June 1 and will commence no later than 11:59 p.m. on June 3rd, Wednesday. So I don't think he really anticipates having a problem with this. I think it'll fly right through. I mean, with a supermajority in the House and the Senate, it'll be a tough road for Republicans to oppose property tax relief, Chuck.
Yeah, and it does seem like the RPOF was ready for this because they've got some nice, pretty graphics out there touting it. I'll throw up on our screen here for a minute here. The real relief for Florida families. Property tax revenue nearly doubled in 7 years, from 32 billion to 60 billion, heading to 83 billion by 2032. And so we have here in front of us Governor Ron DeSantis' proposal. Now that came out right away, and so one would think that the RPOF was very much aware of what's going on and appears to be very much in favor of what's happening here, right?
Right. And, I can't help but notice CFO Blazing Goglio's fingerprints on it, too. Because a lot of the talking points in the resolution that calls for the special session talks about the significant increase in taxes, even though population growth and inflation hasn't increased, that is Blazing Goglia. He's been doing this for months. Really, ever since he took over as the CFO, he's been traveling around the state, busting big cities and counties on wasteful spending. And the talking points that Governor DeSantis has, which are included in the RPOF, they are actually the RPOF marketing materials mirror the proclamation that the governor put out calling for the special session. And this is what CFO Blazin Goglia has been talking about ever since he got appointed to the CFO position, Chuck.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw this back up on the another graphic here. Again, right here in the middle, Governor Ron DeSantis announces a proposal to eliminate property taxes on homesteads. And the first point he says we have here is to exempt homestead property from taxation begins by exempting the first 250,000 of homestead values from taxation and requiring through law a schedule for full elimination. So, Mike, it seemed to me earlier on talk about a certain amount being left for the school systems that would not be tax deferred. So are we looking at this saying that that's changed, or are we thinking maybe they're just not being totally complete? We don't have the legislation here, so we need to keep an open ear for that.
That's true. We don't have the legislation, and it didn't discuss school taxes assessments either. So, based on the talking points that floated before the call for the special election, it did say that school funding would remain in place, but none of the paperwork I've seen so far addresses school funding. So, Chuck, so we're gonna have to keep our eyes open for that and see how that goes.
Yeah, for sure. Because yeah, I find that it would be very, very difficult to eliminate that, and we shouldn't. I don't think anyone should get their hopes up in regard to the eliminating of your school taxes from your property taxes, at least not yet. So let's get this back up here. Section number 2, ensure funding for core services. Requires local government to use remaining property taxes solely for core public needs, including public safety, education, infrastructure, and natural resources. Well, there, Mike, it does talk about education, and although kind of leaves it a little nebulous.
So basically, what you're saying there is that if homesteaded properties do not have to pay property taxes, then non-homesteaded properties are paying for schools, Chuck, unless the homesteaded properties are, the school assessments are excluded from the reduction in the taxes, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, that's kind of what we're.
Yeah, that means that commercial properties and the properties of absentee owners would pay for schools when the other people who got the tax relief, it's their kids that are occupying the schools. So that's a little fishy.
Yeah, well, yeah, it doesn't
Right, you
seem.
have to look and see what's the public comment on that going to be. But again, keep in mind, Chuck, homeowners are voters. Homeowners want the tax relief. Homeowners will vote for the constitutional amendment. This is a done deal as far as I'm concerned. We just have to look and see what the actual provisions are. Well, again, particularly on the school issue, whether the school assessments would be excluded from the prohibition on taxation of homesteaded properties, Chuck.
Yeah, well, again, down here, the remaining property taxes solely used for core public needs. Now, I don't know what other things does the county use their money for if it isn't for public.
Chuck, you really need to look at the budget,
Yeah, well,
right?
I guess.
Because there's so much junk in there. Unbelievable, right? I mean, I would just like to know how many 501c3s, not-for-profit organizations, do county budgets fund. And I think you'd be surprised at how many not-for-profit organizations get funding from county government. And that is certainly not a core need. It's not, public safety, education, infrastructure. So yeah, it's going to be, and I tell you something. Anyway, I would take a hard look at all of that if I was a county commissioner.
Yeah, for sure. And we all should be, I think, paying close attention to this special session. We just talked about the possibility of business owners and owners that are not necessarily living in their homes paying for these taxes. But the next section here is protecting small businesses and limiting future property tax assessments on businesses and creating a more stable tax environment for local businesses. So that kind of takes out of the question the idea of sticking them with the education bill.
No, it doesn't.
Or it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Basically, what they're referring to there is that, homesteaded properties have a 3% cap on appreciation. Non-homesteaded properties have a 10% cap on appreciation. And the legislation that the governor's office is proposing reduces the cap from 10% to 5%. That's what they're referring to. So it still means that small businesses will pay their full boat on the taxes. It's just that the values of their properties will have a cap of 5% on appreciation from year to year, Chuck. That's what that means.
Okay. That sounds interesting. Let me get over here. All right, there we go. I'm kind of in my own way here this morning. So let's get over here again and look at this ensure fairness for Florida residents section here. It requires any person who establishes Florida residency after January 1st, 2027 to maintain Florida residency for up to 5 years prior to receiving the increased homestead exemption. So what they're saying there is that for people who move into the community after January 1, 27, they have to be here 5 years before they get the new setup.
Yeah. Again, just trying to stem the flood of people who are going to come pounding into the state of Florida when the nation learns that there's no property tax on homesteaded property. The population will grow in Florida remarkably, which will drive housing values for sure. So I think this is a small thing. I don't think 5 years. I think no one, I'm just going to say it, no one who did not contribute to the workforce in the state of Florida should get a pass on property taxes, Chuck. That's my thing ever. Okay, if you want to contribute to the economy in Michigan and you want to retire in the state of Florida and you never worked in the state of Florida, you never ran a business in the state of Florida, you never contributed to the economy in the state of Florida, then retiring in the state of Florida is a luxury and they should have to pay property taxes. We want people to move to Florida in their working years when they can contribute to the growth of the economy, not once they've made all their money and they've got all their pensions and here they come to play golf and tennis and pickleball, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I get it, and I can understand the concern there. And I feel kind of the same way, even though I'm one of those people. I came down here after I retired. But I do feel like there should be, I think, more than 5 years. I don't believe
agree.
that's, yeah, and they were basically a while back kind of floating the idea of a 10-year format where, you get 10% off up to 10 years before you're totally and fully off the tax rolls, and I felt like that was very fair, and I'd be happy to contribute in that situation. At this point, if this passes, I'm golden, but I don't know if that's fair. I don't, if you're talking fairness.
Well, I've got news for you. I mean, no matter what happens, when there is no property taxes on homesteaded properties, we are going to get a rush of inbound relocations into Florida, Chuck. So yeah, I like 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
mean, 10 years, I would be happy with that.
Yeah. So again, these are Governor DeSantis's proposals, and even though they're being highlighted by the RPOF, we still don't know what we're going to get.
That's true. I really don't know how. I really don't know where the leadership in the legislature. I really don't know where they stand on this. I mean, if the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House don't like it, then you're going to get pushback. So I don't have a clue. What these guys are going to do about it. I don't know if they're going to just line up in favor of it and pass it, or they're going to fight it just like they did the immigration legislation in January, right? January in 25, if you recall.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So again, there was a big fight over it, and the
Right.
legislature didn't like what the governor had in mind. So in this case, the governor, again, same situation, but I can't imagine supermajorities in both houses not being in favor of this kind of property tax relief. But the politics is something completely different. And then you got to look at it, because I guarantee you, if only county commissioners could vote on this, this would never pass. I don't think county commissioners want this at all, right?
Yeah, well, that's where they get most of their money. I mean, right? It's going to be tricky.
I would say about a third of their money comes from property taxes.
Third. Oh.
Yeah, but it's a big deal. And it's real. I mean, this is going to result in those commissioners having to, well, again, keep in mind, but the governor's point is also true, that property taxes have skyrocketed far greater than population growth and inflation. So these guys are sitting on, on mountains of cash. And where is the fiscal restraint on behalf of our counties?
There you go. Well, let's go ahead and throw this up one more time in the final section here at the bottom. Create a state trust fund to assist with core local services. Establishes a trust fund to provide grants to local governments to assist with the continuation of core local services. So, where does that money come from?
That's going to come from the state. So the state is going to set up a trust fund. And then, the argument is that some small counties will not be able to pay for essential services without the homesteaded property tax. So the state is saying that in those cases, they will underwrite, those services we've already talked about: law enforcement, infrastructure, public safety,
Education.
Education, right? But we'll see whether the education piece survives.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, Chuck. It's a little off subject, but I had a little thought the other day. Maybe we should set up a fund that helps people transition their kids out of public schools to self-directed education and teach families how to manage their own children's education. And let's do that.
Well, that's interesting. Do you have any ideas on how that might work?
There's a lot of people, like, for example, I can't remember the girl's name now. Florida Family Coalition, I think, or something like that, came in and spoke to one of the local grassroots organizations here, and they have a very successful program. For it's universal school choice, which is already in place. So basically, with universal school choice, the funding that the school system would normally get if your child was enrolled there actually follows the student. So the family can spend that money, anywhere between, I think the lowest in Florida is about $7,500 per student per year. And the max is around 15,000 per student per year, depending on what county you live in. But that money follows the student. So my point would be, let's just set up or it could be private sector, right? Private sector companies could assist families in transitioning off of public schools into self-directed education for your kids. And I think based on technology and the availability, I just enrolled in an organization called the Great Courses. And I promise you, there's nothing that I want my kids to learn in public schools that is not covered in the organization online called the Great Courses. And you can, of course, order supplemental workbooks and all kinds of things. If you don't like the entirely online, they send you supplemental information and everything, so you can learn whatever you want to learn without sitting in a classroom, particularly when parents are involved, which I know that's an issue. But personally, I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't do that. Just help people transition off of public schools. Chuck?
Yeah, well, very interesting, and might possibly help in the education bill, getting people heading in a right direction without a lot of extracurricular.
Just
So-
some coaching for parents, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just threw in the comments a link to the proclamation that was put out by, I'm assuming, the governor, and
Yep. Signed by the governor.
yeah, right. And I'll throw it up on our screen for a second here. We're not going to read the whole thing, but it's a proclamation, State of Florida, Executive Office of the Governor of Tallahassee, to the honorable members of the Florida Senate and House of Representatives. And there it is. We have all the whereases. I'm not going to read through them. But at the end, now therefore, I, Ron DeSantis, Governor of the State of Florida, by virtue of the power and authority vested in me by Article 3, Section 3C1 of the Florida Constitution, do hereby proclaim as follows. And again, I'm not going to read it all, but the link I threw in the comments section. So there it is, and we shall see, Mike Levine, as to where this all takes us.
It'll be really interesting to watch the counties adjust to this non-homesteaded, to this homesteaded property tax relief, Chuck. That's going to put them into I'll tell you right now, they better get their pencils out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gone over all of this. We have a few minutes left. What are your strong feelings, or do you have strong feelings on what this really does mean for Florida in the future, especially local governments?
Well, of course, you have to be aware that these counties are going to have to significantly change the way they budget. It's going to have an impact on their revenue stream, so they're going to have to adjust. So the question becomes, for me, it's like, do I want? It's the same thing. This is a very heavy-handed move by the state government, injecting themselves into local government business by removing a key funding source for local government. So I'm not crazy about the state doing that. On the other hand, I also believe that the counties do not implement, zero-based budgeting by any stretch of the imagination. and they know that their budget, their dollars that they're collecting every year are skyrocketing, as the governor points out in the proclamation, and the Republican Party of Florida points out in their um, collateral marketing pieces, which is true. So why, when population, why does the budget of a county skyrocket far in excess of increases in population and inflation? So I think that it's realistic on the governor's part, but it's kind of interesting. The governor would have the guts and the fortitude. Now we'll see if the legislature does, to significantly restrict funding to the counties, Chuck. So that's the big deal. And let me tell you something. From a business standpoint, I assure you that the counties can function with very little impact on quality of life for the citizens under the proposal that the governor has put forth. So the counties would never do it on their own, and it's getting more expensive to live in Florida all the time. And this is the governor. Of course, this works for the governor politically as well, right? The governor wants to run for president, so he's going to use this as a very strong indicator that he is a fiscal conservative. So that's another on the political side. But personally, I'm pretty sure that when I go to the polls, I'm going to vote in favor of this constitutional amendment, Chuck, just because I believe that the counties do not properly manage their budgets for whatever reason. So if that means the governor and the legislature have to step in and limit funding to the county governments, well, let's see where it goes. I'm willing to walk down that road. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah, well, I'm always in favor of lower taxes. There's just something else that's kind of bugging me. Things that I've remember hearing, and it was one of our county commissioners, I think, when talking about the roads and all the problems that we have and infrastructure, and they're telling. I remember hearing something along the lines of. It's the state that's holding up all this funding for increased road development, and that they're like, I remember 5 million, but that 5 million doesn't sound like enough. They're behind maybe 5 years on giving the counties the money they need to improve the road system. What am I remembering, Mike?
That's an interesting question, Joe. Because Governor DeSantis a couple of years ago was out doing press conferences saying that the state of Florida was 15 years ahead of their infrastructure schedule. So what this boils down to is the difference between infrastructure that is statutorily the responsibility of the state versus infrastructure that is local. And the state of Florida just really likes to keep local government over the barrel on money. So while they have plenty of money to do, not the governor actually said that in his press conference yesterday, the state of Florida has plenty of money. He's saying that we run surpluses every year, and we've got a big giant rainy day fund and all that. So the state of Florida is in really good shape. And when it comes to infrastructure, the governor told us that we're years ahead on our infrastructure schedule. So if that's true, why are the counties having so much trouble? And the reason, in my opinion, is that the state loves to keep the counties and the cities hungry, and therefore they're much more likely to take what the state dishes out without complaint, Chuck. That's my response to your concern.
Okay, well, yeah, sorry, it just kind of came up in my memory, and I couldn't put all the pieces together. But what you say makes sense. So anyway, we're not that far from this special session, and it won't take long, I think, for us to figure out what we actually end up with. Why don't you give us a final remark, Mr. Levine?
Well, I think this is a pretty bold step by the governor, and of course the legislature if they go along with it. And I'm really interested. I hope. I mean, I would just. I think all the county commissioners and all the city council people, when the state of Florida starts pushing back against you and you don't like it, I highly encourage you to step up to the podium, step up to the microphone, make your case, argue for your point of view, And don't let the state push you around without a fight if you have an argument with merit, Chuck. That would be my comment to local government officials.
Well, great. Thank you, Mike Levine. And thank you all again for tuning into our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook and X at RestoreOurRep76. Check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic -ROAR. Please like and share the program. And remember, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump. And God bless America.